This is the New York Sports Machine on WICR.
And a pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Look at that. I just stole Kenny Reichman's opening line that he usually comes in on every single thing he does. But for the New York Sports Machine, today it has a special edition of AB Conversation, joined by Ben Zeno, the hero. I'm Anthony Carlo, and we're bringing you, Ben,
the madness of March.
The madness of March. I like the way you put that. The bracket-busted people of this world right now are certainly not appreciating the way this tournament has gone so far.
Well, Anthony, I did not fill out a bracket, but for the 11 million people that did, no brackets are correct.
Yeah, so Ben likes to take a different approach to it. He first of all, actually, what is your approach to it? You like to just sit back and watch.
If it's not the Knicks, you know my motto. Just trying to watch good games.
Exactly. Ben is very, I guess you could say, non-competitive unless it's the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, Ben becomes a spectator when we're dealing with pretty much any other sport besides professional basketball relating to the New York Knicks.
Yes, and the closest thing to a professional basketball team in the Midwest region, can we talk about the Kentucky Wildcats?
Sure, we can. We'll begin in the Midwest. Now, I had Kentucky obviously advancing up until this portion of the tournament into the Sweet 16. Now, I was wrong, Ben, and I'll be very honest, as Ben and I always are on this show. We're very up in front on AB Conversation. I did have Kentucky facing off against Maryland in the Sweet 16, but it turns out that West Virginia defeated Maryland, so it'll be Kentucky up against West Virginia. That game later on tonight, Ben. I believe it's a 9:45 tip. Who do you got in this game if you're watching, if you had a pick?
Big Blue, Kentucky Wildcats. Just because the fact that I know all the hype going into this week was on West Virginia telling Kentucky, yo, you guys about to be 36-1. We're West Virginia. We're here to beat you guys. But I think Kentucky's overpowering of the Mountaineers.
I agree with you. I think that Kentucky is going to be the team going all the way to the championship this year, 36-0, but they do have a team they're going up against in the West Virginia Mountaineers that is a very good defensive team. And we know, Ben, that teams like to play, or I should say analysts like to say defense wins games, and one of their freshmen, Daxter Miller Jr., says, you know what, he salutes the Kentucky Wildcats for being 36-0. But he also says after tonight, they'll be 36-1.
That's just the mindset of that team. They know the hype surrounding Kentucky. There's no hype. There's no pressure on West Virginia. It's all about, can Kentucky win the game? That's the headline. Can Kentucky move on?
That's actually a great point. You bring up the point about not a lot of pressure on West Virginia. The pressure's on Kentucky, and that's because they're trying to live up to that perfect season. That's actually an excellent point. And Daxter Miller Jr. He's got the mindset that the Mountaineers need. Now, the Mountaineers are forcing opponents into turnovers on 28.3% of possessions, and that's the highest mark in the country.
Yeeks.
So Kentucky comes in tonight, obviously, with a high-powered offense. They come in with guys like Willie Cauley-Stein, who stand above 7 feet tall. Obviously, the Harrison twins, who have the ability to control the game on many aspects of the floor. But they're going up against a team that, just like we saw in the Iona-Manhattan MAC championship, it can turn the tide in terms of defensively. Now, we saw in that game, being here from Iona, that Iona came in with one of the best offenses, honestly, in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And Manhattan forced them and pressed them to play to the Jaspers game, and what happened was Iona completely got shut down offensively. So I don't think it's ludicrous to say that there is a possibility tonight, and it would be a very big upset, that the team that is leading the country in forcing opponents to turn the ball over in the West Virginia Mountaineers may be able to force Kentucky into those types of situations.
That stat is key because the guard play of the Harrisons and Booker bringing the ball up the court. If you stop the guards, that's where the offense begins. So if the guards of West Virginia can stop Kentucky's first line of offense, then they'll be golden.
That's true, and the question becomes whether or not the defense will be good enough to stop the offense of Kentucky, which is so very deep and so very high-powered. We shall see. And one more note on that game before we move on: Bob Huggins, the coach, of West Virginia, is one of 2 coaches to have defeated John Calipari more than 500 percent of the time, I guess you could say. So in other words, he's one of 2 coaches to have an above 500 record against Calipari. That would be the right way to say that.
Talking about Bob Huggins, he's one of the only one of few coaches in the leagues that in NCAA that wears tracksuits instead of the attire of Anthony, who'll be dressed more like Benzino.
That's true, and maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need somebody to bring everything sort of to an ease, calm.
Relax.
Yeah.
Sweatpants. I'm relaxing. Bob Huggins, when he coaching, relaxing. Might not look like it, but let's see what happens tonight.
The Wildcats may be deceivingly not relaxed, and we would figure they would be based on the way they've been playing, but like Ben said, we'll see if the pressure's on them tonight to continue moving forward. Notre Dame and Wichita State. Notre Dame 31-5. We're staying in the
Midwest region.
Exactly. Notre Dame 31-5, Wichita State 30-4. Listen, Ben, when you look at Notre Dame, they're a very good shooting team.
Mm-hmm.
They shoot a team best 56.1% so far in the NCAA tournament. And another thing about Notre Dame is they have the ability to push the envelope and be in big-time moments in games and survive.
That's all because of their senior leader, Grant, 16 points, 6 assists a game. And that's just experience coming from a freshman, knowing maybe his first year he didn't make the playoffs, but make the tournament, but going in, Notre Dame as an experienced team, Grant is their catalyst.
You're right, and he has a hand in that 42.8% of Notre Dame's 2,816 points this season. A couple of other guys to note on this team: Demetrius Jackson shooting a team best 56.1% in the NCAA tournament, and I believe I actually. Second ago, I read that stat wrong. Demetrius Jackson is shooting a team best 56.1% in the NCAA tournament, so that the Irish don't have that clip of 56.1%.
That's only Jackson?
That's only
Okay.
Jackson, but they still are a very good shooting team. Pat Connaughton ranks first in the program with 137 games played, and you have Zach August, the average 16 points and 9 rebounds per game in wins over Northeastern and Butler. On Wichita State side, after this year, Ben, you can talk about this. They lost their best scorer.
Clee.
Yeah.
He's on New York Knicks basketball.
Clee Anthony early, and Clee has, I guess, not had the typical rookie season he would have wanted.
Injuries and all that. Even though he did score his career high last night, Knicks lost, but did score his career high.
He did score his career high, and Clee Anthony early spent a little time watching the Westchester Knicks this year.
Mm-hmm.
He dealt with some injury problems, but anyway, so after losing Clee Anthony, who was averaging 16.4 points per game and rebounding 5.9 rebounds per game, guard Fred VanVleet continued his rise to step in for Clee Anthony early. And Van Vliet's averaging 13.2 points, 5.3 assists, and over 4 rebounds per game per contest this season. And he scored 22 points per contest last weekend, both over Indiana and Kansas. Can Wichita State use somebody like Van Vliet and their junior guard Ron Baker? Very hard-nosed player.
Yes, this Wichita State team, they're called the Shockers. So what's Wichita doing in the tournament? They have no place to be here, and they could say that last year they had no place to be here. But this year, even though without Clee Anthony, Fred VanVleet was really took a hold of that offense, and Ron Baker and company. And isn't Wiggins? No, he graduated. Andrew Wiggins' older brother was on the team last year, I believe, or he's still on the team. I'm not sure, but.
And you were mentioning Ron Baker, and he's sort of they have this. They have this presence about them that they're a very hard-nosed team.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say hard-nosed.
And as you were saying, the Shockers, they last year they were actually undefeated, but they got taken out in the tournament, and this year they are they're standing at a good record, 30-4. I think honestly this is going to be a very close game, and I think what it'll come down to is a big defensive stop, and that's why in my bracket, and let me just confirm here. who I have moving on. You see, I have Wichita State moving on, but that's why Notre Dame will be a dangerous threat when it comes down to that one or two possessions, because they live for the big moment.
And for this Notre Dame team as a program, this is their first time in the Sweet 16 since 2003. So, are they used to this? No. Hopefully they step up and continue in your bracket.
That's true. So we'll move on now to the Western region. Wisconsin versus North Carolina. We'll wrap these two last games up pretty quickly so we don't drag on this segment, because we do have another part of this. But Wisconsin, they come into this game obviously with Frank Kaminsky.
The big man.
The big man, very big man. I actually met a girl that anchors at LMC TV, where this is why I'm dressed up for later. I have to do some anchoring. But she goes to Wisconsin.
Okay.
And she knows Frank Kaminsky. And he's, it's interesting to talk to somebody who personally knew this person, who we see so much on television, especially come tournament time. But, Ben, can you relate to that? It's different when you know an athlete on a personal level.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When you get a little insight, so, hey, how you doing? It's more than a conversation continues. Except, hey, what up? I keep it moving.
Exactly. So, with Frank specifically, it's interesting against Oregon how he didn't really step up to the way, Wisconsin has seen him step up all year. And Sam Decker and Hayes also in that game helped pick up Frank Kaminsky. Now, you go into this game, if you're North Carolina, and you realize you have him to deal with. Is there any possible way that they can shut down Frank Kaminsky like the Oregon Ducks were able to?
Is there a way? Yes, because they have Jackson, the power forward, and Meeks, but they're not sure about Meeks. He might not play because coming off injury off the last game. But they do have bodies to throw at Frank Kaminsky. Hopefully, if you hone in one player as as like Manhattan did with David Lowry and let everybody else score, I think they could do that.
The one problem with North Carolina, and the fact is that their offense sometimes appears a little inconsistent.
It come and goes.
Exactly. And who does it come and go with? Well, Marcus Page is one of those staples. What do you think of his game, and what do you think of the ability of that offense to rally around him? Do they only go when he goes, or can they work without him?
It will be harder for UNC to win the game if Marcus Page does not have a good start. That's what it is.
It's as simple as that. I mean, it's as simple as that. Arizona, Xavier, the preview in this one, Xavier comes in 23-13, and they're up against Arizona, who's at 33-3. Now, Xavier is led by their senior center, Matt Stainbrook, who's averaging 12 points and 4.8 rebounds per game. He's shooting over 60% from the field, so that's a bit interesting. And freshman guard Trevon Bluette, who has had another key sort of hand in this whole thing, averaging 11.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. Now, Xavier ranks 9th in assists per game at 16.4 and 29th in field goal percentage. So when you're looking at this game, Xavier comes in basically as the team that would upset Arizona.
They have all the intangibles, passing the ball. They're always looking for that one more. They won't settle for a bad shot.
Exactly. And the thing, though, about Arizona, though, is that, they come into this game with sort of the reputation that if anybody's going to go to the championship, if anybody has as good of a chance or maybe close to as good of a chance as Kentucky, it's Arizona. That's what a lot of people are feeling. They have a team who, between the forwards, Brandon Ashley, Caleb Tarzawiski, and Stanley Johnson combined for 35.4 points and 17 rebounds per game. And Ben, I know you'll probably mention Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and T.J. McConnell, who combined in that backcourt.
Now, T.J. McConnell's nice with it. He came over from Duquesne last year, so he's averaging about six assists per game. And last game, he did have 19 points, which is uncanny of him. But this guy knows how to run the offense, McConnell.
Now, in my bracket, I do have Arizona advancing. Unfortunately, I had them advancing against Georgia State. So I was wrong.
That didn't happen.
I was wrong on that one, as Xavier did advance. But we're going to take a quick break here on AB Conversation. We'll be back. We'll finish up recapping the East and the South. So stay tuned.
And check out that New York SportsMachine.com. Word.